Okay. I don't really like this camera angle, but we're gonna go ahead and go with it. So hey guys, welcome back to History According to McKenna. Insert logo here. I'm telling my future self this. But today we're gonna start with our first video. Today's Tuesday. I really hate this angle. I'm gonna go change my case really quick. Okay, so I just switched my angle. I like this one a lot better. R.I.P. that. I'm not gonna say. So we're gonna start first video. It's May 18th, 8:37 p.m. and this is really for a deadline, TBH. Okay. So we're gonna go through period 1, and instead of talking about presidents like I am going to do in our later videos, I'm gonna talk about important figures instead, because period 1 is a time of like where America's being discovered, so to speak. Discovered at Christopher Columbus. You didn't discover anything. Period. But we're gonna be talking about like this is like America's beginning. Like this is where America begins, like period. So we're gonna talk about the important figures that kind of influenced America. And yeah, so that's what we're gonna be doing. So ew, this is a lot of me just like but yeah. So for our first figure, first and foremost, is Big Daddy C, Christopher Columbus. And that's kind of obvious because while the Americas were already like they're already here and the people are already inhabiting it, Mr. Columbus comes in and he's like, okay, so there are people here, but whatevs, hashtag whatevs. And he kind of kicks things off for the European colonizing, for the Europeans colonizing. They had already colonized before, but this is really when Europeans are like, no, we want that, So Christopher Columbus, he sailed the ocean blue in, not 1942, because that'd be way off. In 1492, he sails the ocean blue and he lands, he thinks he's going to find trade routes to India, I believe. India or Africa, one of those two. It's ethnic, and that's where I wanted to find it. That's kind of racist, but he is looking for a trade route, and he ends up in what he calls the West Indies, which we now know is America. And yeah, he sees a lot of things, and he goes, "Hey guys, there are a lot of good old resources here," and he essentially extracts the resources, brings them back to Spain, and Spain's like, well, we got to get on this, like, now. So Spain sends over their conquistadors, and these are they're Hispanic, but like they're white men, they're white men. Mm-hmm. So one of our very important white men is Hernan. I'm gonna say it, I think it's Hernan in Spanish, Hernan Cortez. Please don't critique my my Spanish. It's rough. We know it's rough. So he comes over and he settles more in the Mesoamerican area, like more and more of Mexico is, and a little bit of like the southwest of America. And he sees like all of these ethnic people, which are Aztecs, Incas, and keep in mind, before the Spanish came, the Aztecs and the Incas had a flourishing culture with flourishing infrastructure. Like they were very ahead of their times with bridges and highways, and they had their own kings, they had their own culture. He comes over essentially, and when two people, not really two people, when one greedy person comes over, of course, the people that were there before, I'm going to be like, well, WTH, because we were here first. And yeah, the Inca and the Aztecs, while they may have been like, okay, cool, like we'll cooperate a little bit, but the Spanish, Europeans are greedy. Scrambled for Africa, may I just add. So, the Spanish come over there greedy and they want like all that land. They want all the land and they want all the resources. Of course, people that have been there for like, we don't know how many years before are like, no. And this kind of leads to some tension between our Europeans and our indigenous tribes. This is kind of the mark of it. And Hernan Cortez, essentially, when he goes over, he's like, yeah, these people, the ghetto tribe. No, the ghetto. We got to get rid of them. And, while they might have been a bit aggressive in the beginning, I don't think they were that ghetto. I don't think they were that barbaric as a lot of the European, Spanish conquistadors made them out to be. So then we have this guy, Bartolome de las Casas, right? And I think that's like the head of a cow, right? But I thought a cow was cafe. Child, anyway, but anyway, we have this, he was a historian. I believe he was a religious figure as well. Who, might I add, has never been to the Americas. Okay, never been. But he is kind of coming to bat for our indigenous peoples. He's like, hey, like, these people, they're not that bad. And it's really the Spanish who are sitting here and getting a little stupid with it. You know what I'm saying? Getting a little stupid. Getting a little, como se dice, crossing their boundaries. Okay? And he is basically saying, he's exposing them. He's exposing the Spanish colonizers who went over there and were like, hey, give us all your land and we'll, like, in return, we'll give you smallpox. Yeah, he's like, hey, the indigenous people were just really defending what they wanted to do. And it was really the Spanish's doing, might I add. And so yeah, they were not, De las Casas, he's essentially just saying like, hey, it's not the indigenous people's doings that the Spanish colonizers are really the ones who were the aggressors, which they were. So fast forward a couple of years. Now what you need to know is that Britain was behind on the colonizing America game. You know what I'm saying? So our Spanish and our Portuguese, they had really mainly occupied South America, like all of Latin America, Spanish, Portuguese, you can remember that. So when Britain got to and then you have France and the Dutch, who have colonized most of North America and what we consider today as Canada. And I want to even say a little bit of Iceland or Greenland, whichever one is up there. They colonized it. Or they sent some people there. Now, what you also have to understand is most of these empires, they went to claim territory, but they did not go to stay. They didn't go to stay. They got their resources, which we traded in what we now know as the Columbian Exchange. They got the resources, they got their money, and they went back. Some stayed, and that's how we got like our caste system in South America. I think mostly in Brazil and our Caribbean countries. And that's also how we got our encomienda system with the Spanish and the indigenous peoples of like the Aztecs and the Incas, which by the way were wiped out. But the British, they were very late to the game. And they colonized that coastline, that east coastline that we now know as the original 13 colonies. And we have a lot of our Puritans coming over, a lot of people who were of another religion other than Catholic, Roman Catholic. They were coming over to escape religious persecution. But we also have people setting up colonies. And we have like Lord Baltimore, who he's a Catholic aristocrat who helps us establish the Maryland colony, and that's why I have Baltimore, Maryland. And then we also have, but But the more northern colonies, they were more so, the geography of the northern colonies were a bit more porous. You couldn't really grow anything. Everything was for subsistence. So while they escaped religious freedom, most of them settled up there in those northernmost colonies, such as like the coal colonies, I call them. And some of the middle colonies were also settled for religious persecution, but they couldn't really grow anything. But those are mostly known as like the wheat states or whatever, because they grew a lot of wheat. But then you have the southern colonies that were being established, and you have those people, they said, okay, we can grow some things here, so we're gonna make some money off this. And money they made, but somebody kind of kicked it off was James Oglethorpe. Oglethorpe. We're gonna call him Jimmy O. So Jimmy O, and he establishes the Georgia colony, but I want to say the Georgia colony was for prisoners, so it was like the Australia of its time. But that kind of kicks off like our more southern colonies, and the southern colonies are more for like, we can grow tobacco, we can grow cotton, we can grow all these things and make money off of them. And like I said, money they made. So, but really all at the expense of the slaves that they brought, which was going on during the Columbian Exchange or the Triangular Trade, where you'd have, manufactured goods going to Africa, slaves going to the Americas, and raw materials going back to Europe. So, yeah. Everything was kind of done, all these labor-intensive crops in the South were kind of done with, the labor of slaves in mind. So, yeah. So, that's all you really need to know for our important figures of period 1, our age of exploration, and kind of a time whenever America's just being discovered. That's why we don't really have any presidents yet, so... Don't have any presidents yet, and it's really just all these explorers and people trying to escape from certain things, and Europeans and white men that we're going to be talking about it, because they're the ones that were here first, and nothing was really established in this new America. People are still trying to figure it out. Kingdoms were still trying to divvy up the land and figure out what they wanted from these colonies. Obviously, you have the sugar, you have the shipbuilding, and the whale oil, and the cotton, and the cash crops, and everything, and the exchange, and the diseases. But these men kind of set up, or helped to set up, because there are many more important figures, but these men, I consider to be the most important during this period, because they kind of all set a precedent. I want to say precedents, but they almost, set the standard because with Christopher Columbus, because he went over, a lot of other people started going over. With Hernan Cortez, he said, oh, the indigenous people are so barbaric, and this, that, and the other about the indigenous people, and how they're just so rude and country and ghetto, and they don't know what they're doing. So a lot of other Spanish people, or just Europe, the continent of Europe in general, thought that the indigenous people were going to be really harsh and really rude, when in fact they were not. And then you have people like De las Casas, who was like, the indigenous people are nice, and even to some degrees a little bit of religion in that. So you'd have another half people saying the indigenous people are not bad, though De las Casas has never ever been to the American colonies. And then you have Lord Baltimore and Jimmy O, who both kind of made these first little states that will be known as 13 colonies and soon as the United States of America. So thank you guys so much for watching. This was History According to McKenna, and have a great day. Bye.